Ah. Hello everybody. Welcome to drawing night. We're just gonna be doing some doodles. Nothing too big. Where is my thingy things? My programmers. There we go. Everything's set up properly. Hello, Cot. Hello. We're gonna try to keep things simple for tonight. I don't want anything too crazy. Yeah, Let's see here. Is that going to work? Okay. Just checking some things. Is that working? That's a little quiet. We can boost that a little bit. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I need to move this remote. I don't want that. I don't want to bump into that. There we go. Yeah, One last hour of Pride Month. Oh, thank God it's over. Not a big Pride Month guy. Look, I'll care about it if people can learn to incorporate those colors without it making without it looking hideous on everything. It is an entire month of suddenly everything looks awful and gaudy. I don't care what it means. Make it look good. Some artists can do it. Most can't. Dabbling in art. Look, you can put, like, the rainbow color scheme on stuff or any of those other kind of ugly flags, like, all you want in there, but it still has to go with everything else you're doing. You can't just throw a bunch of saturated colors on anything and make it work. There are rules here. The smart individuals will just make it washed out pastels, and so it looks more like... So it blends in more with other colors, especially if it's on, like, fabric. That's how you do it. Rules are made to be broken. In these cases, they're kind of not. You can always tell when they're broken because it looks bad. Oh. I guess I'm sorry for going to school for art. Shouldn't have done it. Never learn art, kids. You'll just be miserable. Give us a gaudy pride rainbow. No. Oh, hello, Ian. Hello, Selkie. Eh. New Patreon drop for Northern Lights. Ah, good. I saw the tweet for it and was like, ah, well, I will look forward to that. For now, I am recording the Remembering the Flowers. It's okay. Ah, hello, Chewie. Is everyone enjoying the life? Do it be good? It's doing all right. I got sent a bag of beef jerky. I kind of ate it too fast. But, like, I enjoyed it. That's what matters. Ah, hello, Crush Cat. So expensive, it goes by in one sitting. Yeah, that's why I didn't buy it myself, right? It's like, I like jerky. I am buying that shit myself. Ah, hello, Michael. Hello, Baboshi. Canada Day? I get a whole day? Okay. Is that how it's supposed to look? It's probably fine. How would I decide something with pride colors? You drop the pride colors and it looks so much better. There we go, we fixed it. Or you can do like the bare minimum and have like a pin somewhere on the design. That way it doesn't clutter things. Another thing is what I said earlier, where you just wash it out and turn it into pastels. Make it cover up a small part of the design. If it must be a pattern on clothing, make sure it's clothing that already would be okay with a striped pattern on it. But again, you do have to worry about like how large the blocks are going to be and how saturated they're going to be. And how saturated or desaturated it's going to be is going to... You have to keep in mind how everything else in the design looks and how all the other colors you're working with work with that motif. Then shit gets more fucked if you have a background on it, because then you have to make sure all of that works together. Hello, demonic. I use paint tool shy.
Alright, see you, Baboshi. Name of character? Oh, this is Dave from the game Password. Watson? Hello. Do you remember me? The name's familiar. But anything specific? Not really. Hello, Emu. New here? Well, I hope you enjoy your stay. A pirate-themed VN. Oh, you gotta make it yourself. You can do it, Cirrus. I believe in you. What am I doing streaming at 1 a.m., Alex? It do just be that way, right? It do just kind of be this way. And serious, it doesn't matter if it sucks or not. Most people fail at what they set out to do. People do it anyway, though. Alright, see ya, Alex. Thanks for stopping by. What day is the 4th? Do I have to do something on the 4th? No, I'm fine. Oh, that's gonna suck. Hearing them fireworks. I'm like, I'm trying to sleep. Do any of you do anything like for them kind of holidays? Learning from possible mistakes. Oh, no. It's just you're gonna learn from mistakes. There will be mistakes. No matter what you do, you will fuck up. And that's okay.
Really, the issue is that most people don't know how to learn from failure, because we don't teach that anymore. So most people around our generations can't really do that. But yeah, figure it out, loser. Get good, scrub. Sink or swim. That do be how we treat this industry. Well, there's always people that will, but boy, when I was in school, you can definitely see the people that, like, can learn from their failure, and people that couldn't. And the people that couldn't definitely dropped out, like, after a semester or two. What's my opinions on Tanari no Yokai-san? It's just fine. It's alright. As far as, like, cry porn anime is concerned, it's like, it's okay. I think the issue is just that, rural, like, yokai-themed anime in rural Japan that's cry porn is a pretty stacked genre. All things considered. There are so many of those, and so you're inevitably going to be permanently compared to other things in that genre. And, like, Yokai-san just does okay. It's, like, fine. You really like the MC? There is no MC. It's an ensemble cast series. That's kind of the gimmick of this one. Like, yes, I know who you're talking about. But that is one of the major features of this anime is, oh, look, it's an ensemble cast, so you never really know who you're going to get as, like, the point of view character for an episode. It could be a fucking car. It could be a silly weasel. Like, I'd say if you have never watched stuff like What are good examples? Like Mushishi or Natsume Yojincho. Like, this will seem more original. But the show just kind of does okay. I think what, like, really drags it down is the really bland directing. Like, aside from the pleasant visual design, there really isn't much else to look at in the show. And that does plague a lot of episodes. And the show's a little too digital to come off as, like, rustic as, like, Natsume does. Because Natsume can get away with a lot of shit because of that. Also target demo, right? Like, Natsume's aimed towards, like, housewives and teenage girls. So you have, like... like, that show needs to have slower visuals and slower paced dialogue so that your more elderly audience can keep up with it. It's probably why I like that one, like, the most out of all of these, like, rural Japan yokai anime. Just because that one's not screaming at you 24/7. You kind of just sit back, hang out. Even when horror shit is happening, you're just kind of like, eh. It's pleasant, though. And not having as much of an eccentric cast helps out Natsume as well. Or makes it worse. It really depends on the person. I've met a lot of people who, like, hate that show because it just doesn't do anything and it comes off as really boring. Which I guess is what happens when you have an entire cast of passive characters. Jiggling keys, oh my god. That's typically how I feel when I try to watch anime aimed towards, like, teenagers. It's just like, Jesus Christ, it feels like it's just jingling keys in front of my face. But trying to pretend that it isn't. I think that's why I do prefer watching, like, shows for actual children and preschoolers compared to that, because at least those shows are upfront about it. They're not trying to pretend otherwise. Oh, and I really hate when they try to have, like, a a like children's manga, but they adapt it for teenagers to try to like widen the community that they can market to. Because those really come off as like, you're stupid, you'll watch this. For an easy recipe for disaster. The problem is that those shows tend to be pretty popular. See your Boku no Hero Academias or Jujutsu Kaisens. And I don't even think those are like bad shows, but it has like that annoying amount of marketing to it. On top of my already not really liking either of those manga. Well, remember, Cirrus, Jujutsu Kaisen comes out in Weekly Shonen Jump, a magazine for 8 to 12-year-olds. The anime ages it up to try to make it more marketable to, like, 13 to 15-year-olds, like, to widen that gap a little bit. But it's still, like, for a quote-unquote younger demographic, you know? And boy, you can tell when they start making jokes and you go like, Jesus Christ, this, like, toilet humor. You know, the one thing that, like, Jujutsu Kaisen did make me do when that manga came out is, like, I read the first, like, 3 issues of that manga, went, this is garbage, but it reminds me of something better. And then I opened up, Yu Yu Hakusho and went, ah, a real man's manga. Oh, hello, Jade. Ah, thanks for the compliment. But that's just like the weird modern state of like those kind of adaptations. I'm surprised they don't adapt more stuff from like Jump Plus, which is a magazine for teenagers. It's like the Shonen Jump magazine aimed towards a slightly older audience, not boomers. That's what V Jump is for. Since Shonen Jump now has like what, like 4 different magazines. I used to keep up with Jump Plus for a little bit, but I kind of got bored reading those manga. Though the adaptations of Jump Plus that they do have are all very successful, so I'm sure that they'll start mass adapting more of those. Because some of the manga series that were in Jump Plus was like Spy Family and Kaiju number 8. Like both of those were in that magazine. Because I was mostly into Jump Plus to try to see if the change in release format like significantly changed the quality of the manga, and it did considerably. Because Jump Plus is a It's not a weekly magazine. It is a bi-weekly magazine. And by that, I mean every other week. So those manga tend to be slightly higher quality because they have a whole extra week to produce for it, right? And then even then, Kaiju number 8 always felt like a monthly publication because they would take every other issue off. They'd just be like, oh, we're taking a break for this week. Here, have a pin-up illustration, like in the magazine. I'm like, okay, sure. This is for someone. Was the quality good enough to see that? For me, yes. For others, maybe not. Because page layouts were always a little bit nicer. Let's see here. Those books just felt a little bit more put together. But not enough for me to, like, stick around. I did end up reading like 30 issues of Kaiju number 8. And then got bored and stopped reading. Which was much farther than I read compared to like Spy Family. That one I read like 4 issues of and went, wow, this is produced very well. Well, I'll be going. It was doing nothing wrong. I just didn't care. Granted, I haven't sat down and kept up with the manga scene and it's been a hot minute, that's for certain. Have I seen the Kaiju number 8 adaptation? I watched the first 5 minutes of the first episode and went, yep, that's Kaiju number 8, and stopped watching. Again, it's not doing anything wrong. It's doing everything fine. Just fine. I will say that reading the first issue of the manga versus watching the first 5 minutes of the anime, I would more recommend the manga than the anime, because, you know, anime production hasn't changed. It's still kind of ass for the workers. So you don't even have the benefit of, like, the bi-weekly manga helping the production of Kaiju number 8. You now just have a normal anime production. So there is like a quality drop-off with that, but not significantly enough so that I'm like, oh, terrible, unwatchable. Well, like, it's unwatchable to me, but like, I wouldn't scoff at anyone who chose that experience.
Cause like it's perfectly fine. Here we go.
To hear the shackles. Oh, you can always see it though.
Yeah.
There's also like no benefit to to showing it off or not, right? Like how much that they worked, either paid or not. Like I always think back to Wonder Egg Priority, and which is like, you know, that is not a very positively remembered anime. People almost died during that production. Because of how much those workers really wanted to get the show to be good. So that took a toll on them. And the reputation of that show is that it's bad, so, you know, it didn't quite get there. Because I think one of the producers was hospitalized twice during the airing of the show. Because of how much that they were scrambling around to try to get things to function properly or to be even better. And to not even be remembered fondly, right? Like, I think it was very respectable what that crew did in that show. Like, I'll probably always remember that series more for how hard the people that worked on it, like, did. Like, how much they cared. Versus, like, the actual end product. But I do, like, get the cultural reception, because it's like most people aren't going to know that that happened behind the scenes. They're just going to look at the final product of the show and go like, oh, this really fell apart halfway into it, didn't it? So not the best reputation, that's for certain. But I'll always respect it. Because that certainly is something that I think about with my own work, of just like, how much heartache and work should I put into it? Right? Because I'm always worried about putting in, like, too much work to the point where it isn't even worth it. It's why I never finish, like, half of my drafts, as I'll, like, start drafting something, and then just, like, if I'm putting too much work into the draft, I just scrap the whole thing. Because I'm like, that's too much work for what I'm gonna get out of this by the end. always tend to think about like how much I'm going to get out of it. There we go. That's probably better. Yeah, we'll do that. It's like slanted awkwardly, but nothing I can really do about that now. This is supposed to be a less thought drawing anyway, so it has a bunch, it's kind of riddled with mistakes, but that's alright. We'll do it this way. Yeah. It just feels like cheating. Because boy, did I always have trouble inking in traditional. That's why almost everything I did was pure graphite. Or I didn't put limitations? No, I always did. Or at least, like, by the time I got into college, I did, right? Because I feel like when you're learning to draw or do art, right, a skill you have to learn early, or else it will plague your art for the rest of your life, is you need to learn when it's just not working. Whether what you are physically doing isn't working for the piece, whether you're not in the right mindset to do the specific thing you're trying to do, you need to learn when it's just not working out. And like when to stop working on a project, especially if you're just learning. Because you're not going to learn by doing something like that incorrectly. What you're going to do is you're just going to burn yourself out immediately. Nothing will get done. You'll probably regress in terms of like your skill set, because you'll just get upset and learn all the wrong lessons from this experience. So you do have to learn that early. And even if you choose to finish it, you need to learn how to finish it fast and recognize what's wrong with it, right? And like, if you can't, then that was wasted time, right? Like if you do a piece wrong and you can't even learn from the experience, that was just wasted time. As sad as that is to say, right? And I did a lot of that when I was really starting out. Is I would just sit there doing figure drawing, trying to learn, and nothing was working. And I basically had stunted my growth as an artist for about 5 years. And so it took a while, right? What's a recent piece that you feel really happy with? I'm never like ecstatic about any piece that I've done. I usually just go like, well, that's functioning. Maybe not as intended. You know, I'm a little too cynical as a person at this point. And usually the pieces that I do end up going like, I like how I communicated this. Usually no one else likes. So you just go like, oh, I think I really got there and captured what I wanted to out of this. And I'll usually get a very muted response from people. And I'll be like, okay, so like, I like it. I liked what I did, but it is a failure in communicating to others, right? And there's that. Like, I can communicate something well to myself all day, every day, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't communicate the same thing to others, it's kind of a failure. And there's that balancing act, right? It's always that hard thing where it's you learn the craft of art, or try to, right? You never really stop. Like you can never actually like finish learning in art, right? You can keep going forever. But like making it and making sure it's communicating what it needs to, not just to you, but to everyone else, right? It's hard. It's hard to figure that out. because you'll sit there constantly trying. So you kind of have to, right? Like if you go to an art job, they expect you to be able to communicate everything to an audience that hasn't learned these things, right? Like you can learn every tool and meaning in art humanly possible, but if you can't communicate those things to a person who hasn't learned those, then like it's kind of a failure, right? I think it's the reason why you see a lot of like why they typically will split reviews, right? Because you'll have like take Rotten Tomatoes, right? I don't like this service. I think it's really dumb to judge movies by these, but you see how it will have a audience score and a critic score, and that is just because like those are two very different mindsets going in, you know. People who do know how everything works and understands how it communicates versus like an average person who won't know that kind of stuff, right? Not everyone's gonna know exactly what like different colors mean in different cultures and how you can like combine those meanings to convey certain things. Right? Like, oh, hey, Wolverine. Take, like, Kung Fu Panda, right? Let's use something that most people will probably be familiar with. Like, most people aren't going to entirely know that, like, gold and, like, red can mean, like, good luck, essentially. And so when you see, like, a crimson red sky behind like Shen, the villain of the second film, but a more vibrant red behind Poe, yes, like, oh, it's supposed to communicate like the differences on how those reds mean thematically. And a regular audience isn't gonna know that, but they will be able to interpret how like bright red means good, darker red mean bad, right? Also, that's like the only Kung Fu Panda movie I like, because it has that level of like, it has a lot of like thought put into it, and its color design, and how it communicates things. It's honestly a beautiful film. I typically try to watch it muted though, because I don't like the script that much. But beautifully directed. I wish there was an isolated score option for Kung Fu Panda 2, because the soundtrack is, like, immaculate. But I don't want to have to listen to the dialogue. Oh, there was that really weird, like, 3 to 4 year span where DreamWorks was making good movies, and the majority of those films flopped, and so they never did stuff like that again. Very tragic, very tragic. And then they never went back to it, right? We had one bad Kung Fu Panda movie with the first installment, I'll Die on That Hill. And then you have the second movie, which is amazing and one of the best films that DreamWorks has ever made. And then they decided to call it quits there, and I totally understand it. Very good. You know, it's like how there's only one How to Train Your Dragon film, right? Right. We all agree on this, yes? Yes. There we go. I mean, honestly, I knew that, like, the second movie was gonna be kind of bad when I looked at the staff list, and I was like, where's Chris Sanders? I was looking at like the directors, like who the director was, and I'm like, that's not Chris Sanders. What happened? Oh, he didn't want to make a sequel. Ah. And you greenlit it anyway? Bruh. Like, I kind of wish that man did more. Just in general, just did more. Like, made more films in his life. Because he's had to slow down considerably just because he's old. But he's made so few films. He's made like 5 total in his career. And I'm always like, sir, please. Like, he probably should have been a household name in terms of like animation directors, but he's made so few and the movies don't go over that well with audiences normally. But oh, the deftness in his direction is always amazing. I always love his films. Even if it feels like we don't actually get to watch a finished product. But How to Train Your Dragon 2 feels off when your main creative head, who was in charge of the first movie, is gone, Sears. That does happen. Then the bad he could have made. But I feel like he couldn't have made like a bad film. Because even if like the movie has like a weak story or a weak characters and whatever, I'm always impressed with his direction. The way he can convey things with like nothing but its visuals. To where you don't even need a script. Oh, hello, Q. Because I always think about like... I always think about The Croods, right? That DreamWorks movie from like 2012 or some shit. And it just... that movie's beautiful. It really is. Is it a very entertaining movie? No. Is it a movie you're going to remember? Not at all. Beautiful visual direction and how it conveys its characters through nothing but that alone. I'm like, this could have been a silent movie. It probably should have been a silent movie. Like some of the most impressive visual set pieces in a DreamWorks movie. Also, yes, he did make The Croods instead of doing How to Train Your Dragon 2. You all can come to conclusions on that on your own. Personally, I think it's fine. 'Cause I got a new project out of him that wasn't tied to anything else. I know some people really hate that because they're like, oh, he made the shitty movie The Croods instead of making a second How to Train Your Dragon. It's like, oh, that's what he wanted to do, though. I can't fault the man for that. What am I drawing? I'm drawing little Davy boy. Because that was definitely like my big takeaway after like watching The Croods the first time, was just like, this is an immaculately made film. This will not be remembered by the annals of history. Do you ever talk to Genshin players? Most are delusional children. Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's kind of like The Croods reminds me a lot of Rise of the Guardians, which is also a really bad movie, but has some of the most beautiful and imaginative directing in a DreamWorks movie, and like none of it works. And I kind of love that film despite that, because it clearly had so much work put into it. Because you can, like... I remember watching that movie and going, like... This man's a storyboard artist. Like, the director. Because the way scenes transitioned and the way everything was framed in shots was so clear from scene to scene that I had to then, like, look up the director, and sure enough, he had never directed a film before, and he had been a storyboard artist his entire career. And I went, and that explains how poor the rest of the film is. Because it's, like, beautifully boarded, beautifully designed. Nothing else was really working. But I'm so glad it got made, even though it will, like, probably never get anything again, you know, with the... Oh, how many people ended up getting fired from DreamWorks because of how much that film failed financially? I remember there was a lot of articles about, like, oh yeah, they had to downsize considerably because of, like, how poorly, like, a lot of the movies in a row were doing at DreamWorks at the time. You know, you had Rise of the Guardians, Megamind, and The Croods. Yeah, none of those movies did well. And, like, outside of all of the porn of Bunny, of the Easter Bunny, I don't think Rise of the Guardians will be remembered. But there is a lot of porn, though, and that's kind of nice. Oh, that's kind of... Yeah, because I usually think of, like, that 4-year block of time as, like, the best era for DreamWorks. One of those, they let a whole bunch of artists helm these projects without, like, too much producer interference, and boy, the fact that every single one of those movies failed outside of the first How to Train Your Dragon. Ooh. Ooh. But all of my artist friends loved those movies, and even in college we would all go like, wow, those were incredible films. Too bad it couldn't translate to a general audience. Because that's just how that is, right? Like, artist films don't do well with general audiences. It's just a different language. So as much as people can, like, complain when they hear about, like, producers or executives getting in the way, it's like, oh, no, that job's needed. Otherwise, you're gonna get a bunch of incoherent films that are really cool and beautiful and are great at telling you what it's about thematically, will not be popular with general audiences. How to Train Your Dragon succeed then? No one knows. No one really knows. And even then, it wasn't a success immediately. Personally, I think of it as that film. Oh god, it has a lot of Harry Potter appeal. Let's call it. Let's call it that. Because when you have a brand that's very easily projectable, and you have enough world building to where you can basically create an OC very easily, those worlds are gonna be popular. Look at Spider-Verse. How many people made Spider Sonas because of Spider-Verse, right? You have though, like, and like that just kind of happens, but it does really help general audiences get into a thing. Was that a thing? Oh, that was such a huge thing. So, like, I usually attribute How to Train Your Dragon's success to having very clear, defined world building, a bland enough main cast where you can truly ignore them for your projection purposes, and a world that is cool enough, but non-threatening enough to where you would love to be in it. There you go. And obviously those aren't things that they clearly went in. Like, they didn't think about that probably going into How to Train Your Dragon, because those kind of fan bases didn't really exist yet. But there you go. It's if you want a good way into think about how you can make your thing more popular that way, there you go. Think about how heavily people got into D&D post-COVID. Defined enough world building, it's your story, easily projectable. You look at all those hobbies that get really popular, you see it a lot. Like that trend, you know. You even look at like One Piece's popularity in the US, right? Oh, what does One Piece have? Basically everything I just listed. Berserk was the same way, but for a different age demographic. From when you were a middle schooler. I get that, Q. Like, you go to reviews of One Piece in the US, and you'll get people talking about the world building, how cool the things are, what they want in the setting, because they're projecting like their OCs, essentially. And not a bad thing, but it is an easy way to get an audience enraptured into your thingy, right? So that's why Digimon did worse. Yeah, Digimon's a little weird because it doesn't have a very appealing world that you want to be in, because Digimon is constantly like, look how miserable these children are. Look how miserable these kids 90% of the time are. It's the reason why, like, in the US, 02 is more of the fan favorite installment, because 1, 02's theme is more aligned with Western sensibilities, rather than original adventure, which basically has zero appeal in the West with its major theme, which is why they cut it in the dub. They had to just remove a bunch of that dialogue in the final episode. Even though, like, obviously Digimon is a better brand than Pokemon. It's not. Pokemon's a much more solid brand. For, you know, easily projectable. Has all the things, you know. Well, the arcs aren't what I'm talking about, Cirrus. What I'm talking about with 02 is... So the main driving theme of 02 is like... how do I word this? It has a very... You can always return to your childhood appeal. Not appeal. That's the theme, right? Is... You never have to lose your childhood or your childhood self. A lot of the villains in 02 are people who lose their sense of childhood, and at the end of those arcs, always regain it. Because the theme is that you can always get it back. You know, you don't have to lose that childhood wonder. You don't have to lose that. Which is like the opposite theme of adventure. Because adventure is, you will lose your childhood. Time moves on. And you can definitely see how it's like, oh yeah, Westerns are going to like the theme of 02 far more than the theme of adventure. Because adventure's theme is really bleak and kind of sad. Which is why it doesn't have a happy ending. And why every time they revisit adventure, it doesn't have a happy ending. As much as people want to complain and go like, but I just want to see the cast of adventure happy, and it's like, that kind of goes against what the theme of that show is. If they were just suddenly happy and functioning people, well, they'll be functioning people. That is the point of adventure. Then the crude taste of reality, yeah. I mean, that's why, like, 02 ends with their cast smiling happily, and the cast of adventure is crying during their final scenes. Right? You know, you have the extra stuff of like, Hikari loses her whistle because it was like a childish thing in the final episode. Mimi loses her big ass pink hat. Why? Because she's becoming an adult, losing parts of her design that make her look more childish. Wow. Like, rock solid theming. Not one that's gonna bode well for audiences. Which is probably why people really didn't like Last Evolution Kizuna, except for me. I was like, this is the only acceptable follow-up to Adventure. Make the kids even more miserable, and how their ending is even more tragic. The way it needs to be. And you know why, like, the sequel to 02 is very bright and shiny and, oh, look, there is no problem. Which is a very 02 thing. I think that film was, like, a great follow-up to 02. But it forever means that, like, Digimon is going to forever, and I do mean forever, be in this constant tug-of-war of they need to pander to the adventure fans. So they'll make something adventure-related, and it will be tragic, and make the world of Digimon more bleak. And then right after, because 02 fans aren't going to like that, they have to make a 02 fanboy project that has a very hopeful and optimistic thing that directly contradicts the previous adventure pandering. You know, like Last Evolution Kizuna and New Beginning. Where it's like, I do love how New Beginning punches Kizuna in the face and going, you're basically not canon anymore in terms of your theme. But that's how the franchise is now going to work forever, right? Is like it has to, because those are the first 2 gens, and they have conflicting themes. So you'll have one side of the fan base that prefers the theme of 02, and one side of the fan base that prefers adventure, and both need to be pandered to. And that's probably, like, the worst part about, like, following Digimon as a franchise. Which is why I hate 02. I'm one of those people. I don't like 02 because I think it's just an awful follow-up. Not that it's a bad show, it's kind of a bad show. But, like, not because of that, it's just like, oh, this is an awful sequel. Like, why would you do this? And the reasoning is, like, it didn't have any of the same writing staff. Like, 02 had a completely different staff than Adventure did. Because they were still making Adventure, because both of those productions were happening simultaneously. One theme for each? You can't anymore, Cirrus. It's too late, because they're in the same continuity. Like, everyone's fine with, like, Frontier being really optimistic, like Frontier and Savers being hyper optimistic, and Tamers being the cold, cold harshness of reality, because they're in separate universes, and thus they don't conflict with one another. But Adventure and 02 actively take place together. And so it'll forever have that issue, and you can't separate them. You can't do that. Watched Adventure and Tamers. God, I wish I was that ignorant. Yeah. I wish I could be like that. Because I remember just watching it, like, 02, going like, what the fuck? And then when I watched the shows in Japanese, it just made it worse. Where I'm like, wow, 02 is awful. As a sequel. I do have to put that, make that addendum, right? Because 02, like, as a TV show is perfectly fun. It's a good time. It has some, like, shitty segments. I personally hate the Black War Greymon arc because it is the most obvious filler in the world. So Cirrus, you can't separate the casts. You can't. Because remember, the casts overlap. So they are irreparably conjoined. Because of Hikari and Takanu. Because if you remove them from the party, it's like either party. They don't function well anymore. The fact that they bridge those casts is the point of those characters. You can't take that away from them, and thus we can't actually axe that side of the cast anymore. Guillemon? Oh, Guillemon's great. Guillemon's amazing. Love that lad. I love the episode where Takato almost kills him. Willingly. Not accidentally. The option was indeed presented to Takato. They worded it really weird in the dub, I think, to try to skirt around that. But it do be that way. Where they're just like, hey, Takato, if you kill Guillemon here, his data will be reset completely, and you can mold him into whatever you want him to be. And, like, Takato considers it. Which would be a weird taste for a kid. I mean, Guillemon appeals to children more. Because he's like, here's your Digimon, like, here's your literal Digimon OC do not steal. You made him. Look, don't you love him? I mean, I'm forever going to be weird when it comes to tamers, since my favorite is Jin, and most people think Jin is very boring. That's the kid with the Terriermon. Personally, I blame the dub. Let's remove his entire character arc. Blessed. Let's go. Let's have his final line of, like, the final scene with the Jin in the dub contradict his entire character. Blessed. Thank you for that line change. Yeah, All right, thanks for sticking around, Michael. It was nice to have you around. It's been a minute. Let's see here. Yeah. Gotta try make that fit. Here we go.
There you go. How did that happen? Okay. Yeah, Let's see here. Gotta try to make that form fading, right? I should probably have that layer turned off. Quieto. Okay. Here we go. Ah. Okay. What Q you read? What? Josh, any furry yaoi you read that stuck to you? What? I think about some of Takamoto's doujins probably more often than I should. What do you mean read? Yeah, who reads? We don't need reading. What a useless skill. Take that off the skill tree. We don't need it. Do you know Beryl from Live a Hero? That character? That's who designed him. They are a doujin author. They make lots of porn. It's very good. The one with the gym? Yeah, I do like that one a lot. Oh, did I slur the E incorrectly? That's fine. You all should know that I can't talk. They don't post as much as they used to. It's real sad. They used to post so much good shit. They probably have a life now, it's fine. I didn't say that they stopped releasing stuff, Wolverine. I just implied that they slowed down, and they did. Yeah. You just have to go to their Twitter and be like, oh, they don't do as much, like, the little doodle ones anymore. But again, you know, that's their decision. I certainly don't post a lot of art. What do you take me for, an artist? Nah. I'm just a bird. Half the time when I do read doujins, they're usually all in Japanese and I don't know what the title is. Because sometimes I just find a zip file on 4chan and I'm like, well, I guess I'm looking at this tonight. You know. Really likes perverted bunny archetypes. I see, I see. Eh. Yeah. Oh, this will be a little annoying. Let's try it this way. There we go. Okay.
works. Da, 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 da. You know, just gotta smooth things out. Whenever it's Dave, we're so back. What? I'm gonna like Dave. He's a little cutie. But Jack is cuter, you're not wrong. You're correct, even.
Let's see here. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think this looks just okay. Just kind of okay. Took a bit longer than I thought it would. This was supposed to be shorter, but I'm never good at actually like drawing anything in a timely manner. I take too long. But that's fine. That's fine. But alright, everyone. I think I'll end it here. I hope you had a good time, everyone. But I will be seeing you guys around.